That's CNN in a nutshell. You know, we'd like to talk about the biggest story of the century, potential fraudulent election, but let's not, because Biden said focus on the transition. Yes, they get on one knee. Yes, of course. Of course we will do that for you. James O'Keefe, again, the hits file for James O'Keefe, 0. He just goes after CNN like this because we all knew CNN's not a real journalism organization. And listen, that's okay. Right, Joe? What do you mean that's okay, Dan? That is okay.
No.
What's not okay is they don't admit it. They still pretend they do news, which is hilarious. Just be honest. I have no problem. I don't work at Twitter or Facebook. I have no problem debating liberals. They're always wrong. I love it. Matter of fact, I'm working on something right now. I'll have to talk to you about it later. I love debating. It's my favorite thing to do because they're always wrong on everything and they don't know anything. But just admit you're a liberal propaganda channel. You're not news. And I'm okay with that. But they don't. They pretend they're news, which is hilarious. So James O'Keefe from Project Veritas, this is really hilarious. Apparently for about 2 months, he has been accessing the conference calls of CNN leadership about their, quote, news programming. And this is amazing. He's been on the calls for 2 months recording them. So yesterday, he decides this is not a joke. He decides on their conference call he's been listening to for 2 months, quietly. You know, he doesn't announce himself. Hey, I'm James O'Keefe. But he decided to announce himself yesterday. This is absolutely priceless, hilarious stuff. Here's O'Keefe telling them for the first time he's been listening to their conference calls for 2 months. And listen to the response. They're like, diaper time, big dump Snadler time. This is hilarious. Check this out.
You're unmuted.
Hey, Jeff Zucker, you there? Hey,
yes.
This is James O'Keefe. We've been listening to your CNN calls for basically 2 months, recording everything. Just wanted to ask you some questions if you have a minute. Do you still feel you're the most trusted name in news? Because I have to say, from what I've been hearing on these phone calls, I don't know about that. I mean, we got a lot of recordings that indicate you're not really that independent of a journalist.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. So everybody, in light of that, I think what we'll do is we'll set up a new system and we'll be back with you. We'll do the rest of the call a little bit later.
We're going to release those recordings today at 7 o'clock. So stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
And you too. This is hilarious. Thank you, everybody, and have a nice day. After they realized their conference calls, CNN, have been listened to for 2 months and recorded. What does he say, Zucker? Thank you and have a nice day. And James goes, yeah, you too. You have a nice Wait. Do we have the I'm sorry. I haven't with it.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Is this not one of those moments? Is this not one of those moments? All we need is the cigar. I have one. I'm putting it. That thing's been in my mouth so many. It's disgusting. That cigar's rotten. This is it. The Own the Libs glasses time. Yeah, you too. You have a good day too. I'm telling you, I don't know where he gets this. I have no idea. But CNN absolutely hates this guy. So here's one of the recordings. Again, big hat tip to Project Veritas. Paula, do you know their exact website? Because I want to make sure we get it right. Project Veritas. Do you have, there she go. I know what she's doing right there. She's putting the Dan Bongino on the Libs logo with the digitized glasses on. There she is. There we go, with the cigar. That actually looks more like a joint, okay? I'm sorry, that is not a cigar. I don't know how Paula put that in there, folks. If you want to see it, email Paula. Our email is info@bongino.com. Please to complain that is not a cigar. That is what you would call a marijuana cigarette, otherwise known as a doobie, a joint, a shorty. As when I grew up, it was called by 1,000 different. I have never smoked a doob in my life. Telling you. See, that's not a cigar. That's not a cigar. Very sorry, Paul. That is not a cigar. Joe was in the music business. He may have more experience with doobies than I do. I'm not saying anything. Statute of limitations is up. There's Joe with the doobie. How did you do that? There's Joe with the doobie. I did not know that was coming. Not a joke. Joe, that may be real. I don't know. Statute of limitations is up. Joe's going to have to handle that in his own show one day when we do the Joe Armacost show. I'm not saying anymore. Joe, don't say anything. I'm not sure where the statute of limitations, but the man was a very famous musician back in the day. Doobies, marijuana, I don't know. Me? No doubt. I'm telling you, never smoked a joint in my life. I'm not kidding.
There was a camera.
Yeah. Who knew? We'll have to get that footage sometime. So this is James O'Keefe. Whether he smoked the doobie, I have no idea. I doubt it. But he definitely gets the digitized Own the Libs glasses for that one because that's just hilarious. Have a nice day. You too. Okay, it goes on. It gets better. Here is what I had a conference call. I know. I told Paul and Joe, hey, we got to speed it up. We got to get the show on time. And I'm the one like going, today's been like a plethora of pop culture references and unintended sarcasm. Here is one of the tapes. This is CNN, again, pretending to be a news organization on a conference call where they actually think it's news and journalism to regurgitate Biden team talking points about the transition. Literally. They're talking about how like the Biden team has told them to minimize Trump's protestations about the election, which is news. Is it not, Joe? The president of the United States is alleging there's potential election fraud. That's kind of news, right? If you do news.
Yeah.
I had to rely on Joe to clean up the DOJ statement. Now I'm relying on Joe to clean up journalism too. Kind of news, not to CNN. Because the Biden team told them not to talk about that and to focus on Biden's transition. So, of course, they're not a news channel. They're an activist network for Biden. Here, listen to them talk about it on this call here.
CNN says on Jeff Zucker's 9 a.m. editorial conference call how they, the Democratic Party, powerful interest groups, may determine how CNN will cover Trump not conceding the presidential election.
I just want to underscore something that Michael said earlier about the transition and Trump, because I've been talking to a lot of people this morning on both sides, and I just keep hearing the same thing, both from Republicans who have not come out to congratulate Biden, but also to those who have in the Democrats, and that is that we have to be, news organizations have to be very careful and very responsible about not giving Trump too much of a platform on his not conceding, because they feel the transition can go forward. And, other than the national security briefings, which are critical to start now, they just don't want us to exaggerate that Trump isn't leaving office. And I'm going to have a lot of specific reporting on that later today, but just big picture wanted to underscore what Michael had said.
Yep, agreed.
That's amazing. I'm being very serious here. That is stunning. Like Kenny Bell stunning. But I don't have time because I got to unring it. You can unring a bell. You just got to put your hand on. That's stunning. Zucker says, yep, I agree. The president of the United States is not conceding an election because there are substantial issues with the viability, freeness, and fairness of the election. The president of the United States. And CNN was instructed by the Biden camp basically to minimize that story, which is the news story of the century, right, Joe? Help them out, Joe. You've been great today, helping out the DOJ. Would you agree?
Of the century, yeah.
Easily. That a presidential election could have been tipped by voter fraud, and the president refuses to concede. But no, the news organization, and she says in the piece, go rewind it, listen again. As a news organization, did you not miss that? As a news organization, we're not going to cover the news because the Biden team told us just to focus on their transition. News organization not covering the news. Joe, do those connect? Or is that kind of like a dog and a cricket, if you know what I mean? Like that, they don't connect, right?
Yeah, ain't happening, no.
Nah, cricket wouldn't like it either. Not going to work. Maybe not the dog either. Not going to happen. That's CNN in a nutshell. We'd like to talk about the biggest story of the century, potential fraudulent election, but let's not, because Biden said focus on the transition. Yes, they get on one knee. Yes, of course. Of course we will do that for you. Shall we lay palm fronds down in front of you so you can walk on them as well?
You just heard Dan Bongino.